And if you're watching this screencast, this is from Wednesday, January 22nd. It is the 8th grade lesson that we did in class. And if you are watching this, you will need to have headphones on and pause the screencast periodically so that you can perform the activity. So we're going to go through these items in this little yellow note, and you'll have had everything you need to know from missing the lesson. So first of all, we learned how to configure your mice and scroll wheel so that they will right click and you can scroll through a browser window, what most people find the right direction. So first thing you have to do is go down to your dock, this region along the bottom, and click on System Preferences. With a single click, that brings up the System Prefs window, and we are going to focus in this second row on mouse. And if you need to pause, again, go back up and pause and do these on your own computer. But the settings that we set in class on Wednesday, this checkbox for scroll direction should be unchecked. Most users agree that it's more natural to have it unchecked. And then the other settings that we checked were the right side that was primarily, which was set for primary button, should be set for secondary. And then down along the bottom, the squeezing of the mouse should be set for desktop expose. So to check, if you right click on an area of your desktop, you get a contextual menu. And also if you squeeze the sides of your mouse gently together, it takes you out to the desktop. And now your mouse is programmed. And if you close the window to System Preferences, we can put a line through this and say we now have correctly configured our mice and our scroll wheel. The other item that I had the kids remove was an annoying pop-up that comes up called KS Admin. And this one takes some time. You're probably going to have to pause when you do this because we drill through a lot of layers. Anyhow, on your keyboard, hold down the Option key and keep it down. And then what you're going to do is click on the Go menu and choose Library. And in your library, there's a folder called Google. And you're going to want to go into that folder with a double click. And then you double click the folder called Software Update. And then you have a file in there called Google Software Update .bundle. And it looks like a little Lego. If you switch to this view called Icon View, it's a little bit bigger, easier to reach. And then if you right click on the icon, you can choose Show Package Contents. And now we're really close. If we open up the Contents folder and the Mac OS folder, then there will be a file in there called KS Admin. And I don't have it because I've already deleted it. But for you, what you want to do is right click on it and say Move to Trash. Okay. But that would be the KS Admin file, not the one that I had shown in the screencast here. And then once you do that, you won't see that annoying pop-up anymore when you run Chrome. Okay, so now you can check that one off the list. The other thing that we didn't do is toggle wireless, but up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, your Wi-Fi doesn't need to be turned on because you're hardwired in. So if you see that little fan illuminated like that with the little bars across the top, you can turn off Wi-Fi, and that'll toggle that to off. You really don't need it on when you're in computer class. Otherwise, it'll take you through Finder in the desktop. Okay, if I get this notes things out of the way, when you're in a Mac, this area out top with the Galaxy on, it's called your desktop. And when you're moving things around, that's called working in the Finder. And what we learned how to do is create folders with a right click. So I'd like you to create a new folder. And let's title this one Garden. And we learned that on a Mac, when you have an item that's selected like that, what you type replaces what's selected. And if you rename it incorrectly, you can just hit the return key on your keyboard. And then you can name it whatever you want. So anyway, we want to call it Garden. And then what we learned how to do is to open up a item like this, and it opens up in Icon View. And this is a Finder window, and we talked about views in class. And we're going to stick to two views in this class. Icon View, which shows you pictures, or List View, that shows you kind of a list view of it. And so therefore, what I'd like you to do is to right click and make a new folder. And let's call it beans, so we can put some beans in our garden. And then likewise, we're going to right click and make another folder and call it carrots. We're using these items just to simulate items in a Finder window and learn how to move them around. Okay, and then after that, we're going to close the window with clicking the red button that closes the window. And then what I'd like you to do is to right-click on your desktop and make another item that you might put in the garden. And we call this corn. And then what we were trying to simulate was how you nest things into folders. So unlike before when you had garden open and you put 2 items in it, in this case I had an item on the desktop that I wanted to put in the garden. So if you drag it and put the pointer on the garden, you can drop it inside. And as you can see by this picture here, now we have 3 items in our Finder window. And we're in icon view. And the part that we wanted to learn how to do was switch to list view, because list view allows you to do some things that icon view does not. List view, for example, allows you to sort a column alphabetically or reverse alphabetic. So beans, carrots, corn, alphabetic. Click on the column heading name and now it's reverse alphabetic. May seem kind of trivial, but when you're dealing with hundreds of files, being able to get down to a certain folder or file, that's a great skill. Okay, or you can sort by date modified, how big it is. In this case, these aren't very big because there's nothing in them, or even by kind. So it's kind of a nice way to do things. And that's kind of what we talked about with the Finder and our 3 views. And we got our feet wet with making folders. Okay, so now we know the Finder and the desktop. We know how to create folders. We know how to name folders and rename them if you named them incorrectly. Put items in folders, and if you want to remove an item, okay, all I have to do is click and drag the item to the trash can down the bottom right corner. So I did have the students remove the garden folder. We put it in the trash because that's not something we need. It was just kind of for practice. The sidebar I talked about briefly with them. The sidebar is this area off to the left in a window, and there are a lot of things in it. For now, I wanted to make sure that everybody knew how to use a desktop, because that's going to be like our launch pad for all of our items. So anyway, the desktop represents what you have on your desktop. Obviously, my desktop has a lot more stuff. That's what you see a lot more in this window next door. Okay. At this point, if you're watching this screencast, ask me to send you the folder that contains these files. You need 8th grade stuff because you're going to be doing an activity in which you have to take these items and put them into a folder based on what the contents of the item is. So after you do that, then you can come back to the activity. Okay, the activity is straightforward. You're going to be making a folder called Practice on your desktop. And I've already got one there, so I won't let me name it that way. Okay, but you can name yours Practice. And then what you're going to be doing is making additional folders inside of Practice. 4 folders called Pictures, Sound, Text, and Video. So if you have to pause and go do that, you can. And now that you have your folders in Practice, what you want to do is open up the folder I just sent you through the network called 8th grade stuff. And you want to put these in the correct folder. They're either one of 4 file types. They're pictures, sounds, text, or video. How do you tell which one is which? I taught the kids that if you click an item and you simply hit your space bar, it shows you a preview of it. So that clearly is a text file. So now if I space bar back out, I can go to the next one. I can down arrow, and if I space bar this, I should get a preview. I don't think I heard anything. That's because I'm AirPlay mirroring this. Let me try that same thing again so you can hear the actual sound. Okay, a little soft, but you did hear a little sound. So the point is, if you want to see what an item is on a Macintosh, if you click once and hit spacebar, it'll show you a preview of it. So now it becomes really easy for me to put these in the right folders. There's a text file. I can drag it into my text folder off to the right side. Some kids felt that by doing this in icon view it was a little easier. So anyhow, when you're finished, you should have all of these items in the correct folder, and then you have mastered the basics of Finder, and you should be in pretty good shape. And that's all for the screencast.